What is up, guys? And as you know, I like to bring in some special guests on this channel to talk about football, some good football fans, some good people who know a lot about football. And this week, man, I think I really was able to bring in some special folks. So first, I'm going to introduce you to one of the best Bengals insiders I know. He's inside guy. He knows everything to know. He is a Bengals GOAT. Ladies and gentlemen, Ace Boogie. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, Quincy? Glad that you guys were able to have me on. Appreciate you for having me.
Yeah. All right. And then this next guest, I think a lot of you may know him. He's one of my favorite YouTubers, kind of one of the guys that made me kind of jump on this. Been following him since his NCAA 14 days. If you don't know him, get to know him. Go to his channel. He has a ton of content. Ladies and gentlemen, Q to Wayne.
Hey. What's good? What's good? Happy to be here. You know what I'm saying?
So, both of you guys being Bengals fans, man. I know you guys were really excited this weekend. It was like a double win for you guys. If Joe Burrow went off, put up video game numbers. I'm not even good enough at Madden to do what Joe Burrow did in 3 quarters. And then, the Bengals came in and defended their home territory, beat the Browns at home to get their second win, and they still get the first pick. But speaking of the first pick and kind of jumping into some of the reactions of the season, I think it's a done deal that the Bengals, you guys have to draft Joe Burrow at this point. So do you think that Joe Burrow would be worth it? Do you have concerns about him? Or, is this the guy that everybody's pretty much committed to for the next 5 years?
I think that Joe Burrow definitely is the guy and the answer here for us for several reasons. Number one, the quarterback position has kind of been somewhat of an issue for us in terms of consistency. Sorry about that. In terms of consistency, but I think Joe Burrow definitely is something that this fan base needs. And I think that he represents hope. I think that he represents a new day, which is what we thought we were getting with Zac Taylor. And he represents a guy that is Zach's guy that he gets to handpick. A lot of the situations and leftover from the Marvin Lewis era still kind of ran themselves through this season. So I think that Joe Burrow actually represents a new day, as cliche as it may sound.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I feel like Joe Burrow kind of completes our it kind of makes the whole new thing an actual reality, because we brought in Zac Taylor, but we really didn't change nothing else. We still stuck with Andy, and I feel like Joe he's got like that it factor, that thing that Andy Dalton never quite had. And Andy always seemed to have his worst games in our biggest moments, primetime games, like the 2 games everybody watches us all year. We usually suck not only because of Andy. There's a lot going on. But, Andy would never really put his best foot forward in those situations. And then also in the playoffs, somebody said on Twitter the other day, Joe Burrow, first Bengals quarterback to win a playoff game since like 1991. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a big deal for us, just having somebody that can come in and have that fire to actually be able to spark the team and make those important plays, those big plays in the big games. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think Joe Burrow, it's a no-brainer. If, like me and Ace was talking about, if they mess this up, bro, like, I don't know. I don't know if I could take it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I've even unofficially went on record that said if they bring Andy Dalton back or give him like an extension, I might consider shutting the channel down. But I was just joking. But oh my goodness.
Oh man. So with Joe, I know that when he was at Ohio State, because I'm in Cleveland, this big Ohio State territory, there's a few concerns about him. And even in his first year at LSU, I knew there were some concerns about him. Some people questioned his arm strength. Some people questioned the fact that, it did take him just that 1 year in his 5th or 6th year in college, to finally become who he is now. And it's such a large jump. Do you have any concern with that jump being so drastic from what he was the year before to how amazing he's been this season?
For me, not necessarily, just because when you go back and you look at his last season, it technically was like his first season, right? That was his first chance at being a starter. Being that he came from Ohio State, transferred over to LSU, he had to build up chemistry with new players. He had to learn a new offense. So for me, I don't think that he was necessarily in a situation where he just really had one hot year. He actually had 4 good games going back to last season. It just really carried over, I think, into this season. And the one thing that I hear a lot of people saying about Joe Burrow is, hey, maybe he's just a product of the New Orleans Saints and Joe Brady's offense. But you also have to give him credit for being able to pick that offense up. Every college quarterback isn't able to really just grasp an NFL offense and master it like Joe Burrow has done. So I think from that standpoint, sure, are there concerns? Maybe, but I feel like there also are pros that have happened with the situation with Joe Burrow, where you can see him going from what he did last year to this season. And then if you're going to make that argument, you could say the same about Kyler Murray. You could say the same about Baker Mayfield. They came from similar backgrounds. And essentially, Joe Burrow actually played more than them, being that he was a starter for part of the season last year. So I think having those examples like the Kyler Murrays and the Baker Mayfields, that kind of qualms a little bit of my concern there from that standpoint.
Right. And like I say, yeah, there are some concerns with it, but like the things that jump out to me are how good he is when things actually break down. Like how good. So it's hard. You can't really put that on the offense or the coordinator, nothing like that. Like once the pocket get messy, he do a damn good job of stepping up. He can roll out and make throws rolling right. He threw a touchdown going out of bounds to the right. He threw another touchdown rolling to the left, throwing on the run, making things happen. You can't credit, what I'm saying? You can't credit the playbook with that. Like these are innate skills that he has. He hadn't had a chance to show them before, other than them 4 games that Ace was just talking about the previous season. But so yeah, there are some concerns, but his the pros, in my opinion, far outweigh any of the cons. So,
and I think just to follow up on that, you also look at the conference that he plays in, right? That's the SEC. It's literally the most talented conference in college football. It's almost like pretty much the junior NFL league. So if he were doing this in another division, say he was in another world, Jalen Hurts, right, where he's doing it in the Big 12, but you haven't really seen him. Well, you've seen Jalen against SEC competition, but if he was in another division doing this, then I would have some more concern. But being that he's doing that in the SEC, it's like, man.
Yeah.
And when the last time LSU even had I lived in Baton Rouge for a long time. Like LSU never has a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like they brought in so many dudes and they can't ever seem to get it right from the quarterback position since Jamarcus Russell?
The only other guy I remember is Zach Battenberg, and he wasn't much of anything.
But he had Odell and Jarvis to throw to in college.
And it still wasn't like
they still weren't great.
Yeah, still wasn't. I still felt like he was the weakness of the team.
Yeah.
Right.
Poor Zach Meckenberger. But speaking of, you guys mentioned the Andy Dalton thing. I remember I got in an argument with my one friend, Key. He's a Bengals fan. And we were talking about Andy Dalton. You know how Bengals fans talk themselves into this is going to be the year that Andy Dalton and AJ Green get their connection together. And I had to tell her, I was like, bro, look, Andy Dalton is what he is. He's not a big-time player. And we went back. I was like, all right, look at TCU. Every big bowl game he ever played in, he lost. And then we were like, all right, let's go to high school. He played in the state championship in Texas. Lost that to a team he wasn't supposed to. I was like, that man is what he is. And speaking of guys that we know who they are and don't know who they are, Zac Taylor, he's the new head coach for the Bengals. Now, the Browns, I'm a Browns fan, obviously. We just fired our head coach after 1 season. Zac Taylor, 2-14. I don't know how you quantify it this season because, I don't know what the expectations for the Bengals were coming in. I feel like getting the number 1 pick kind of was the expectation, or at least was the goal or what you wanted. Instead of going 6-10 or 7-9 or something like that, it just kind of being in the doldrums. But for Zac Taylor, do you think that he's going to be the change the Bengals need, or do you think that the permanent switch is going to be somebody down the line?
You can go first on this one, Flim.
Okay. I done been through the full range of emotions with Zac Taylor throughout this season, but this is where I stand right now. Oh, but even before that, I'll back up. My expectations for this year, I honestly thought this team was, I know this team is extremely talented, We won 6 games the year before. And I actually went out on a limb. I got to make a response video for this like tomorrow, by the way. And I said that the Bengals was going to go 8-8. And like emphatically.
I remember the title. I think it was my Bengals put out no 3-13.
3-13, hell nah, like, and we went 2 games. So it definitely wasn't the expectation for me, but still just seeing how everything played out. I felt like Zac Taylor definitely looked over his head a bunch. I felt like his play calling was super questionable at times, but the dude vastly improved over the course of the season. Like he made adjustments, like the adjustments they made in the run game. I mean, Joe Mixon picked it up. He got like almost 500 yards in the last 4 games. You know what I'm saying? And went over 1,000 and, did everything he needed to do. So I'm actually very encouraged with what Zac Taylor has been doing, not to mention going into the Browns game. I was talking to another Browns fan, KTO, another YouTuber, about this. And I was like, bro, y'all team really not playing hard for Freddie Kitchens. I'm looking at our team. I'm like, no, we got 1 win. 1. These cats are still out here playing hard. Like they really still trying to get everything done. Nobody like flipped out in the media. Joe Mixon was strong in the media all year. Andy was strong in the media all year, even though got benched at that one point. And I think a lot of that, you got to give that credit to some of that credit at least to Zac Taylor. I think the guys believe in him. I think he's attempting to build something, and I think the culture is starting to shift. You know what I'm saying? It remains to be seen where that goes. But I'm actually, at the end of the season, looking back at the whole thing, I actually feel good about Zac Taylor. And I'm excited to see what he does this year coming up. But he better get this damn draft right, because last year's draft was trash. And, I don't want to repeat that, but he got his coaching staff to get everything late. I'm giving him a pass. That was his first one. I'm excited to see what he can do in 2020. So I'm pretty high on Zac Taylor at the moment.
And for me, just to paint a picture of where Flemlo was coming from, I also said 8-8 as well. I think I even jumped out there and said 9-7 before the Jonah Williams injury. And the reason for that was, you have to understand from our perspective, we felt like we've always had a lot of talent. Like talent has never been an issue with this team. It's been Marvin Lewis's lack of kind of pulling that talent out and really getting players who should play on the field, getting rid of some of those old, outdated NFL ideas. And we felt like with Zac coming in, hey, we already have a team that could win 6 games in a Marvin Lewis kind of system. Why can't we get this guy to come in here and immediately have success? Because you talk about the Joe Mixons, the John Ross, like we're loaded. We're not a team that's really bad or like really searching for any talent. And so for us, it was like, man, maybe with removing Marvin from the helm in terms of his poor clock management, his lack of, this is a guy that said at one point last season before he left that second half adjustments didn't exist. He didn't believe in second half adjustments. So you get a team that would make a lot of the same mistakes over and over again, and there would be no adjustments. There would be guys that clearly shouldn't be in there. That would be old veteran guys or Marvin Lewis guys, and they'd only be on the field because of that. So a lot of that kind of came from everybody saying, okay, the Marvin era is done now. Guys who should play will actually play. Younger guys won't have to wait until their 3rd year to actually make a debut. Those were things that we kind of dealt with. Like, this was a guy that did not want to play John Ross at all. Did not want him at all. And you saw as soon as Zac Taylor put John Ross in and used him correctly that first game, he almost had 200 yards receiving. So that was a big reason. And then the way that the season started off, we were like, oh man, like we should have won that Seahawks game. So that was not a good indicator of what was to come. And certain things that we saw were just things that we had never seen from Marvin Lewis before. But I think what really killed Zac, honestly and truly, was losing Jonah Williams, losing AJ Green early and not really being able to have those guys from day one. I think that that really just kind of wore on him. But as Flynn pointed out, he also has had some weaknesses that he showed as well from a play calling standpoint. Him coming from a quarterback coach background to being a first year, not only head coach, but also a first year play caller, kind of, I think, put too much on his plate. And I think that that was one of the issues that he kind of had. He didn't realize how bad our offensive line was without Jonah Williams. So I think that that was an issue. Then you also have to take into account his next best offensive lineman outside of Jonah Williams, Cordy Glenn, was out for probably 12 games with a random injury. You combine that with a coaching staff that did not really have much chemistry and not really knowing what to expect with development of these guys. Being that Zac Taylor, you had to wait until the Super Bowl was over to actually bring him in. He had to pick from scraps. So those were a bunch of factors that I think that factored into Zac. But I think, like I said, he can improve his play calling. I actually think that one decision that he should make from his adjustment from this season to next is to let someone else call the plays. I think that that was a major flaw in Zac's development. But I've talked to players, and I've had my co-host Zim Hude, who's talked to players, and they really believe in Zac. They think that he's smart. They think that, from what I heard directly, when Ron Rivera got fired, someone asked, "Hey, why don't we replace him with Zac Taylor?" And this player said, "Are you serious? Like, Zac is really a genius. He just hasn't been able to get his whole plan and execute it because of the injuries and things of that nature." So I think, given the circumstances, especially with ownership, the constraints from there, the constraints from injuries, and all of the other X factors, I think that's why you will see that Zac Taylor will get a second shot at this to actually be able to pick his guy, go in and make adjustments, as Flynn pointed to, because we basically had no run game early on this season, and Joe Mixon just finished off this season with 1,100 yards. So the one thing that I do have faith in Zac Taylor about is for making adjustments. He will always make adjustments to any weaknesses, and so that's why I tend to be on the side of giving him another chance. And you see what he does next year, and then you go from there.
Right.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen from Zac Taylor, just from the outside looking in, especially just how hard the Bengals played at that last week. Because, the Browns, like, I felt like the offense came a little bit to play, but the defense, like our defense, you played them when in week 14, since Myles Garrett got suspended, this defense has not even remotely put in the same effort or been the same. Like, Joe Mixon, I think he has 500 yards in the last 4 weeks, and like 300 of them came against the Browns.
Yeah,
it's been kind of bad on that front, and that's why Freddie Kitchens don't got a job anymore. I think the team I don't know if they quit on him as much as I think the team liked Freddie Kitchens, but I just think that they just didn't believe that he had the answers that they needed.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Browns, obviously the disappointment of the NFL, or one of the biggest disappointments in the NFL. There's a lot that can be said. There's a lot of opinions that I have on them personally. I'm interested in hearing what you guys think from the outside looking in. When you look at the 2019 Browns, you look at the record 6-10, and you look at the talent on the roster, what do you think happened that just made this season roll out so flat?
I think you already know, Quincy. We did the pre-show going into the season. I had the Browns at 11-5, and I don't. For me, it was mostly based off of the talent on the roster. It was me putting a lot of stock into Baker Mayfield, taking that next step, because I really like Baker Mayfield. I still like Baker Mayfield. Although he had a down season this year, if you study quarterbacks, some quarterbacks can have what's called a sophomore slump. I think that kind of came this season. I really feel like, from the outside looking in, I feel like Freddie Kitchens, and I kind of said this in my projection video, I said that he would possibly be the downfall of the Browns, simply because this situation was just too big for him, right? Like, you're taking a Super Bowl caliber roster and you're asking a rookie head coach to really kind of command this locker room when he doesn't really have a resume that backs it up. It's almost similar to when the Cleveland Cavaliers hired David Blatt and LeBron came back.
Yeah.
And it was all of a sudden you went and you traded for Kevin Love and Kyrie was there. And it was like the moment was just too big for David Blatt, so they had to go and get someone else. And I think that that's really what it was. I think the one decision that kind of sticks out in my mind is there was, I think, a primetime game and Freddie Kitchens just kind of goofed on some of his play calling, especially with the game on the line. And it's like, dude, you have Odell Beckham Jr. and you're not gonna target him. It was just, for me, there were just some head scratcher moments with him. So I think ultimately he was kind of not essentially the scapegoat, but kind of what held the Browns back from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how you can look at the situation and not say that. You know what I mean? Extremely talented roster. The only thing you could point at, the easiest thing to point at is Freddie Kitchens. I mean, I felt like with Baker Mayfield and Odell in particular, and Jarvis also a bit, these are super emotional guys, right? So the head coach, they almost needed a guy who is a little more even keel, not somebody that's gonna seem super low, super high all the time. He basically was just mirroring what they was doing. It's almost like if like your dad is raising you, it's like if he like your homeboy, or is he your pops is gonna actually like put you in line when you need to be, or is he just gonna mirror all your emotions? You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's really what Freddie Kitchens did, and Baker Mayfield took major step back. I mean, he kind of blew up over those last few games of last year. He got all his commercials, he got all of his stuff, and like he hasn't really cleaned up his self-awareness or his judgment, and he literally can't control his emotions at all. That stuff gets out of control. Then Odell get the tripping, then Jarvis get the tripping, and now Freddie Kitchens he's sitting there. He has no answers. He has no idea what to actually do. And just from the outside looking in, it really just looked like a lack of leadership, lack of leadership. So y'all did the right thing. I think get Freddie out of there, get somebody else in that's got some actual experience that could come in and maybe get the most out of the roster, because the talent is obviously there, Yeah. So y'all did the right thing, getting rid of Freddie.
Yeah, I think you said something interesting there, because when you do have Jarvis and Odell, I think people like to paint them as like divas or things like that. I firmly don't believe that they're bad locker room guys or bad teammates. I just think that they're emotional dudes. Like they're gonna get angry, they're gonna have blow-ups. And right. Baker Mayfield, for better or worse, he's a very emotional dude. He can let it get out of hand a lot. And I think when those three dudes are the leaders of your team, and then Freddie Kitchens is the head coach, it's a domino effect. It only takes one spark to set off Jarvis. That's going to set off Odell by default. And when Odell's getting upset, it's going to set off Baker. And then you have your team kind of imploding from behind. Like, I've been not on football teams like that, but, we've had like work dynamics like that, where it's he going to get hot, then that's going to make her hot. And then he going to get hot, and then we ain't going to be able to do nothing for the next 3 hours. Right. I feel like that was a lot what was going on. And like one of the things I would commend Zac Taylor with is that Zac Taylor did an excellent job with a veteran heavy roster, with a roster that's used to winning. Geno Atkins, AJ Green, well, he was on the roster, he didn't play. But, like all these veterans on the roster that kind of expected to win. And that the fact that those guys didn't give up and that you weren't forced to trade those guys, like Miami had to trade some guys in order to have a winning locker room. That says a lot about Zac Taylor and his ability to lead as a coach. What happened with Freddie is I don't think Freddie, he had the strong leadership in the locker room. And not to slight Odell or Jarvis or Baker. It's just they're all three kind of the same kind of thing. They can light up really easily. And it's just not a good fit to have those dudes be the sole leaders in the locker room. I think you needed more veterans in there, older dudes. I think the Browns, the mistake they did this year was they tried to get so much upside, right? Like Antonio Callaway was one of the key things. So much upside with Antonio Callaway. Yeah. Where in reality, he's like the third or fourth wide receiver. You don't need upside. You need somebody who's older, who's going to be able to tell these dudes to calm down and be able to get a first down every once in a while. That's all you need out of that position.
Yeah.
But they tried to get the most out of that position. They tried to get so much upside out of that position instead of just getting the veterans. And I hope what they do this offseason is understand, like, all right, we're going to let some of these upside guys go that just don't fit right now with the locker room and the dynamic it is, and bring in some veterans. Bring in somebody like Jimmy Smith. Bring in somebody like Eric Rowe on the defense. Bring in some guys who have accomplished things, who have played in winning locker rooms, who know when to freak out, who know when to hit the panic button, who know when not to, so that this team can just have more of a calming influence. I've seen it happen so many different times in so many different sports. Like we talked about the Cavaliers, like one of the things I think that really helped the Cavs is when they fired David Black, it allowed LeBron to really take control of that team because they were fighting for control with David Black and LeBron's influence over that team and the people that he brought in was something that made them a championship contender and allowed them to do things like bring in J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert and have those guys actually have their careers reborn in Cleveland. And I think the thing that happened with the Browns is that we got so caught up with talent and upside, and we want to be this amazing offense that we forgot that it's not fantasy football. It's not roster building. It's team building. I think John Dorsey, he has a huge part of the blame here. I think he got caught up in that too, and I don't think that he built a team. I think he just built one hell of a roster, and it kind of blew up in his face because you need those leaders. You need those locker room leaders, and I think
I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's just what happened. I think it also was too much for the young quarterback too. Like Baker Mayfield's in his second year. He shouldn't be asked to be carrying a franchise. I mean, like even the Ravens who's Lamar Jackson is doing his thing, MVP candidate, who's going to win the MVP. He's not asked to be the sole leader of that team. He's asked to just assist. They have Mark Ingram on that offense. They have veteran dudes on the offense that help them along. They have a great offensive line.
You can lean
on. And then John Harbaugh, he's taking the leadership role. The Browns Freddie Kitchens is a nice dude. Now, I'm not happy to see him fired. Like, it really does make me sad that they had to fire this dude because I don't think he knew what he was getting coming into it. And I think once they traded for Odell Beckham, this became a completely different team and a completely different job that he did not ask to have. It's really is similar to the Cavs with David Black because what happened with David Black, he was hired before LeBron came back. He was supposed to lead the Kyrie Cavs and with Deion Waiters and all that stuff. But, Deion Waiters is also one of my favorite Cavaliers of all time because it's the unmatched, unreal confidence in him. This is a sidebar. But like he would look at LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love and say, no, my contested jumper. That's the shot that's going to get it in. Deion, man, I love to see Deion go off. That man is too confident. But yeah, it is a similar situation to that. And, I think that the Browns front office got caught up into that, and I hope that they can change things and be better because this division you're gonna have to be very good to win it. Like it's not even gonna be like you can be decent because I don't think the Bengals are gonna be a slouch next year with Joe Burrow. I don't think the Steelers are just gonna roll over and be last place. And the Ravens look like they're the team of the decade right now. So for the Browns, like I think they have the talent on hand to compete with them. It's just you got to get the right people in the right places. But go ahead, man.
Quincy, that I wanted to say is what really surprised me with you guys was that you guys did not hire Bruce Arians, being that Bruce Arians, when you first started to hear the whispers of him coming back, they said that the first team and only team at the time that he would consider coaching would actually be the Browns. And I think that there were whispers, and he said, because of you guys' fan base and how passionate that you guys were, that he felt like that would be an ideal coaching side or coaching place for him. So I was kind of surprised that he wasn't kind of taken into account for that position because I think he would have been the perfect guy that Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield, especially you look at what he did with Roethlisberger, Andrew Luck, all of his quarterback development, Carson Palmer. I think that would have been really like a good hiring for you guys. I think that he should have been the guy that you guys brought in there. And obviously that ship is sailed because he's in Tampa. But when I heard that, I kind of got scared. And this was before I think you guys actually traded for Odell. And so I was like, man, if they get Bruce Arians, that's going to be a problem for us.
Yeah, I think the reason they didn't go that direction, I don't even think they interviewed Bruce Arians, unfortunately. One, I think they thought that Freddie Kitchens, as silly as it's going to sound, I think they thought he was a younger version of Bruce Arians because they do run the same offense and they do have like similar mindsets and everything. And obviously, the offenses are similar. Look at the interception totals between him and Jameis. It's the same concept. I just think that they thought that Bruce was too old, that they were scared off by him retiring. And I think they really did want to get a young head coach in here to kind of be the guy for Baker Mayfield for the next 10, 20 years. I think they really did envision that happening with Freddie Kitchens. I think they had a few missed opportunities last offseason with the coaching. And I think they have some opportunities this season. If you haven't seen my video, I did one about Pete Carmichael Jr., the Saints offensive coordinator. He's been there for 11 years. I think he would really be a great fit in Cleveland. Ron Rivera is going to be going to Washington, I think, so that's not going to be available. But I just hope they do their due diligence. I hope they don't get caught up in what everybody in the media is saying. I don't think you need a former head coach. I think you just need to find the right person and do your due diligence and hire that guy, whether he's a coordinator with a bunch of experience or not. But yeah, the Browns head coaching search last year was just a complete whiff from a lot of different standpoints. I think they fell in love with Freddie Kitchens very early on and didn't really consider anything else. But speaking of the disappointments, let's move on to some of the surprises of the entire NFL. I know there's been a ton. I think this has been a pretty fun NFL season as far as surprises go. I don't think this has happened chalk like we normally think the NFL has. Patriots have 3 seed and no bye. So, I think this has been a pretty different NFL season. I want to know, what are you guys' biggest surprises of 2019? I'll start with mine. I think one of my biggest surprises, I knew that the Ravens were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be 14-2, winning like their last 12 straight good. I didn't think they were that good. Yeah. And I definitely did not foresee Lamar Jackson. I always thought Lamar Jackson was going to be a Pro Bowler. I didn't think he was going to be this. 1,200 yards. He's like 5th among running backs in rushing yards. And he's not far behind in passing yards either. So I think Lamar Jackson and that offense really just exploding, kind of one of the revolutions of the year. I think it's going to give a lot of dudes in college opportunities that just weren't available to them. Hopefully that leads to Jalen Hurts getting a real opportunity in NFL, because I think he's one of those guys who can have a better NFL career than his college career. And he's had a great college career. He's just so mature. He's just so disciplined that I think, some of the things that he needs to work on, like his accuracy and all that, like I think he can fix that in the NFL. And I think that the Dolphins are somebody who's going to probably snatch him up in like the late first or the second round. And they might have a steal with him. But another surprise of the 2019 season, I would say, for you guys, would definitely be that AJ Green did not play the whole season. I did not see that happening when he had his little injury at the Bengals family day. I did not see that spilling in to the entire season like it did. And obviously there are other factors in there that we could speculate on, but I think AJ Green not playing was definitely one of the bigger surprises of 2019.
I'm trying to think like what would I consider a surprise? Like what shocked me? I mean, the Lamar thing, I didn't expect us to win only 2 games. What really surprised me? I guess I didn't expect I'll go with Jameis. I didn't expect Jameis Winston to be so epically good and horrible at the same time. I mean, the 30-30 season, then the way he ended, like he ends it. He throws the 30th pick with a walk-off pick 6. I mean, it's just one of the most epic seasons that I've seen in a long time. And I definitely hope like a whole lot of specials and different things like that are made on it, because that's one of the most surprising things I'll say of the season. I mean, Jameis I had pretty much written him off before this year. Now I'm not sure exactly how to feel because he threw for 5,000 yards, but then there's also the 30 interceptions. So, yeah, I'm gonna just go with Jameis. I think Jameis was probably the biggest surprise for me.
I heard a good parallel to Jameis this morning because I'm in Florida, so a lot of my friends happen to be either Bucks or Jags fans. And the comparison they made this morning was that he's the black Brett Favre. He's the gunslinger. He has the gunslinger mentality. Baker Mayfield has a bit of that as well, where it's like they just want to win on every single play. And this has been an issue for Jameis for like the past 2 or 3 years, like honestly, all the way going back to his last year at FSU, because I was in Tally when he was at FSU too, and I don't know what it is. Every coach tells him, like, dude, you can't throw a touchdown on every play. Like, sometimes you need to throw it away. You need to do this, and he just continues to do it. But for me, the number one shock for me this football season has been the Tennessee Titans and the emergence of Ryan Tannehill. I did not see that coming at all. Like, number one, like I didn't expect them to bench Mariota, and not only for them to just bench Mariota, to bring in Ryan Tannehill, and for him to just have the year that he's having right now is just like crazy. Like that was pretty. Like Lamar Jackson, I didn't expect MVP, but I did expect him to be like someone in the league that was going to be reckoned with. Not MVP caliber, but I kind of expected that. I did not expect Ryan Tannehill to get traded to the Titans and have like a career resurgence.
I thought he was for
sure. His hot take right now, he might. I think, are they playing the Patriots for the wild card?
Yeah.
Are they?
If he eliminates the Patriots, that is going to be the wildest thing that has ever happened that I did not see happen this season.
It can happen. Because what? The Dolphins just beat them, and that was a Patriots assistant coach. And then Mike Vrabel, same old deal for Bill. So it's either going to be really good or really bad for the Patriots there. But yeah, Jameis going full Jameis. That was definitely one of the most entertaining things to watch. Definitely.
For sure.
5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, ends it on the pick six. Like that's just Jameis right there. Like
that's a beautiful story. Like that's just a perfect story, bro.
I watched a ton of Jameis at Florida State because I was like really into that team at that point. But man, I remember thinking like that draft too that Jameis came out on. The 2014 draft, I believe it was Jameis and Marcus. That was like the Luck and RG3 of that draft. Those two were supposed to be the dudes. Yeah. And Jameis out here throwing 30 interceptions, 30 touchdowns, 5,200 yards. Like, and then Mariota got benched, and I thought Mariota started his career out more solid than Jameis did.
He did.
For Mariota to get benched, and not just benched, completely outplayed by Ryan Tannehill, who just came out of nowhere. That was just those are good ones. Those are good surprises because nobody expected that. Shout out to Jameis because Jameis. I love Jameis. Jameis is like the Deion Waiters of the NFL, to be honest. Because when Deion fails, he goes like 35. He goes like 2 for 35. Like he makes it entertaining.
Yeah.
Jameis, man, when Jameis goes bad, Jameis makes sure you're going to at least have fun watching this.
Right.
I got to appreciate that. It's entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, we are kind of in the entertainment industry, all three of us. All three of us are YouTubers, names in our communities. Flemlo, obviously the biggest name. I think he's one of the biggest names in just the NFL YouTube community. I mean, when you think of NFL YouTubers, you definitely think of Q Wayne, you think of What Happened To's, you think of Flemlo Raps, him and KTO. I think are the two like OGs of this genre, honestly. So it's just very interesting to have all three of us on. We've all been able to build some level of success on this platform. So I want to talk about a little bit of the NFL YouTube thing, and I want each of us to kind of describe what the climb and that grind is like to get just to sustainable level, and and I think what people don't get is just like you get to that level. That's kind of the easier part when you get there. To me, it's been like, all right, now I gotta maintain this because every day I'm like, yo, this is gonna be the day where my views just drop to like 200 views on a video, and I'm just dead in the water. You know what I mean? Like that's the pressure that a lot of us are under. So let's kind of talk about that.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we gotta have the goat go first, man.
Nah,
Got
don't
to.
do that. Don't do that. But well, my YouTube journey, man, it's been interesting. Like the unique thing I can say about mine, that's different than a lot of people I talk to is when I started YouTube like 5 years ago in 2015. I had every intention of making it my full-time job. It's not like I didn't just kind of put a video up and see. Like I went all in. I sat down. I made a plan. I had like a 3-year plan. I went and told my wife about it. Like I mapped the whole thing out and then obviously made adjustments along the way. But I started out, I was doing gaming, doing like the NCAA stuff. And that was like that was the real grind because I was getting up at like 4 a.m. because I still had still got my full-time job. So I get up at 4, I record like 3 videos before I go to work. Then I come home and I get off. I edit as much of them as I can. I would drop them at midnight. You know what I'm saying? I did that for the longest time, man, and kind of finally built it up. But I guess the thing that I can say is just that the grind to build the YouTube channel is different for everybody. I feel like I went the super long way around. Like I didn't drop a video and it like popped, like, you know what I'm saying? I talked to some of my contemporaries, like their first video got 80, 100,000 views. I like that. I got like 2,000 videos, man. It took forever. And it took a lot of adjusting and a lot of, just fixing this and tweaking that and just trying to make different things work. But I think that's probably the best way to do it because you build up a core like that. And that core audience, and they really going to hold you down. Like even when your videos aren't doing great and YouTube ain't really pushing it as much, you're going to still have that core, kind of like that mixtape. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That mixtape fan base, like my mixtape fan base is strong, bro. So I feel like I always be good just based on that. But and I'm gonna probably just interject more like when after y'all talk because I don't really know exactly what you want me to say with this. But it's been a ton of hard work. Super happy to be here. And 2020 is about to be. I'm trying to make 2020 the best year. Like I'm focused this year. I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just kind of sleepwalking through it like I did some of 2019. So I'm ready to move.
Sure.
Yeah, I probably say for me, it really was just a product of it kind of just happened. Like I've always loved like talking sports. I've always loved talking about the Bengals. I've been super passionate about the Bengals. So I kind of started as more so like a YouTube fan. Like I just was try to search for Bengal stuff and I would never find anything about the Bengals. Like I would actually come across like Flem's videos and stuff like that and I would see his Bengal stuff and I'd be like, oh, that's dope. He's a Bengals fan. But when you like really scour like YouTube, there was just like nothing really on there. And it was like, man, we just have to have somebody on there to talk about the Bengals. So initially, like when I started my channel, I was a part of a Facebook group. It was called Bengals Real Talk. And in that Facebook group, we struck up like some friendships. And this was when I kind of was watching a lot of a local podcast that was called Inside the Jungle. It's actually not in circulation anymore. But what they would do is they would do a roundtable format. And for me, I kind of wanted to do something similar. So when I first started my channel, we would just do a Google Hangouts, and it would be like me and a couple of Bengals friends, and we would just talk about the Bengals. The next thing I knew, it was hard for us to all kind of come together consistently. So one day I was just like, I'm just gonna do this myself. And like at the time, I had bought like I think a new MacBook and it had some equipment and stuff. And I started to see like, okay, well maybe I can kind of tweak this into like a YouTube channel for the Bengals. So started doing different segments and stuff like that. And then what was crazy was I started my podcast during that time. And
You still there, man?
Did we lose him?
I think he lost. We'll get him back. No, I think his phone probably cut off.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to jump into, me, at least for my YouTube thing. For me, like, I've always wanted to, like, do YouTube since I found out you can get paid for it. So I think that was, like, in 2009. They started, like, paying people to partner program.
Oh, they started in 2009? Okay.
Yeah. So I was, like, 14. I remember I was making, like, game review videos. And I would never let nobody watching this video find no videos. Yeah. But I used to make these game review videos, like, from my desk. And I had, like, these crayons and stuff. I was reviewing, like, like PlayStation, whatever I had around the house. And like those kind of like did a little bit, but then I got tired of it. And then I wanted to do like comedy videos, and I made a channel for like a whole comedy thing. Yeah. And then, I wanted to do like I've been on this platform just like messing around with different channels since like 2009. And then I finally came to this channel, and I first started because like I'm from Cleveland, but I had moved from LA to LA after I graduated college because I did acting in college. Okay. So I wanted to try to do that. And when I was over there, like you get told so many different things. I had an agent. My agent was telling me like, oh, you need to do this and that. So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna do some of this stuff on YouTube. So I did like some acting stuff and then like some vlogs and everything. And it didn't get any traction because I didn't know what I was doing on the platform. Yeah, I was just putting up stuff because my agent was telling me to do it. And then I had some bad experiences in LA with some people. So I decided to move back to Ohio. And then like, I just remember I was just sitting there like, bro, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Like, I don't know what my plan is. I did the whole LA thing. It didn't work out. And I just remember sitting there at my desk and I was going to do like a vlog, like they wanted me to do it in LA. And I was like, nah, I ain't going to do that. So I sat in like my room and I was watching like videos on YouTube, and then like Colin Cowherd popped up, like one of his like things. I remember watching the video and being like, yo, I hate this video so like I hate every point he's making in this video so much. What's up, Ace?
Ace, welcome back.
I don't think he got audio.
So you was watching Cowherd and you were like, what the fuck? What is this dude talking?
Yeah, it was a video. He basically had compared like Baker Mayfield to RG3. And I just was like, I got so heated about it. I started writing down counterpoints in like a notebook. And I was like, yo, this is a video.
Yeah.
So I put that video out there, and after years of like putting out stuff that got like 200 views at most, or like maybe 1,000, like for like literally like 8-9 years, this thing got like 2,000 views in the first 2 days. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna do another one. Yeah. And then like 3 days later, it got like 20,000, got to like 30,000. Yeah. And then like it just kind of blew up from there. And then I did like a video about the whole Kellen Winslow situation. Before everybody picked that up, I think I did that in like May, and I think everybody kind of picked that up when the trial had happened, when the trial had finished after that, and that one really blew my channel up. That one almost got like 500,000 views. Nice. And I've just been trying to maintain the hardcore fan base that I have here. A lot of them are Browns fans, but you'd just be surprised how many are just like pure football fans that just like hearing, like in-depth takes. And I've been building that up, and I have so many like cool, like I've been waiting for the Brown season to end all season because like it's been such a disappointment. I've been like, yo, I got so many cool ideas I'm gonna do during the off season to kind of branch out and do all these different things. Like I can't wait for the Brown season to be over. So when the Browns lost to the Bengals, like people were like, were you mad? No. I was happy. I was like, it's over. All right, they're gonna probably fire Freddie Kitchens. I'm gonna drop a video on that, and then boom, I can focus on all this cool stuff that I've been putting aside because it's been the season. I got to drop a video every day. Yeah. So it's like, all right, so now I get to finally focus on this stuff that I've really been wanting to do. And it's kind of re-energized me because the season, man. Especially like if you do like the team YouTube stuff, it's like,
I think about that all the time, bro. Like when the Bengals would be playing like trash, and I'll be like, man, A's got to make a video on this shit. I'm like, I'm about to turn this off and just do something. Like, but yeah, when you gotta like report on the team, I know that could be tough, especially in seasons like we both had kind of miserable seasons in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's crazy.
The worst part of this season hasn't been like the reaction videos. Those are a lot easier. It's the preview videos. Like when you're doing a preview for like the Browns and the Bengals in week 17, and don't nobody care who's going to win this game. Like I don't even care who's going to win this game. And you try to break down matchups and like different things. And you're on the DVOA website looking at like fractions of percent, and you're like, bro, why am I doing this? Like nobody cares about this. But you just do it because you got to stick on brand, and you're just like, oh my goodness, man. I can't wait for this season to be over so I ain't got to talk about none of these potato games.
Man, that's crazy. Man, y'all's was so dope. I'm gonna redo mine because like I did it. But so like for me, like what happened was in the beginning, like I was doing sales, you know what I'm saying? And I was making a decent amount of bread. but it's kind of a soul sucking job, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. At this point, I'm like 27 years old, and I turned on YouTube. I was getting like Call of Duty tips, and I seen this cat doing a house tour. And he was like, "Yo, this house tour, bro, this is all because of y'all." I'm like, "What is he talking about?" You know what I'm saying? So I do a little bit of research and realize you can make money on YouTube, and then start putting like the whole plan together. And when I jumped on, like I was playing NCAA at first, all game, outdated, but I would do like these stories. Like I made like these characters, Terrence Davis, Anquan Davis. I would make them within the game into little RTGs, and I put them in just different. And like I wrote like a short book on one of them on Dre and sold it on Amazon. Did I? Dre's Crazy Summer. And like people was really into it, and I started to realize that it really wasn't the NCAA stuff. It was more the storytelling stuff that was making the video stick. So I realized, okay, I'm gonna have to branch out. But at the time, I was making 3 videos a day just to like pay my rent. You know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, I got now my wife, it was my girlfriend at the time, and a son. So I have to do these things, you know what I'm saying? If not, I'm gonna be back in there selling TVs because I gotta make money. So anyway, I saw like all them basketball videos, like Mike Krzimba and people like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do this for football.
Definitely.
And I hit up the highlight channels, and I was like, yo, like Harris Highlights, people like that. I was like, bro, how are y'all doing this and not getting all your videos copyright strike? And it was like, they all getting copyright claim. I was like, damn. So I was like, all right, so I got to find a format that'll work where I ain't really got to show. Like, it would obviously be better if I could show like real high def clips, but it just, until like they come up with something, you can't do it. So I figured, all right, I could be on camera. I kind of put my little personality into it. And I figured out that the media, when they tell these dudes stories, because I'm more interested in like players than teams other than the Bengals. When they tell these dudes stories, like they really don't have any perspective, or they're just trying to push like a certain narrative or whatever like that. I was like, what if we really got into like what's really going on? Like what's really kind of causing this stuff? Not saying these dudes are right or wrong or whatever, but just tell me the whole goddamn story and let me feel how I want to feel. Like all this information is on the internet. I don't know none of these dudes. You feel me? So they could do it, but they choosing not to. So I just kind of wanted to be that person. I think that's like the biggest thing that took off. I mean, you had that. Also, I had the Last Chance U stuff, which helped my channel get out there a lot as well. Yeah.
I think that's one of the first videos I saw. You had like it was like a Last Chance U video. I think like Isaiah, right? Yeah. I remember it was like I remember popping the video and I was like, yo, this dude, like it was like you had the NCAA gameplay in the corner, and you was just on the little screen. I was like, oh,
because the mixtape audience that we were talking about earlier, they really was liking. They just love all the NCAA stuff at the time. But I knew it was like I gotta feed them, but I also gotta bring in new people. So I was just thinking new ways to do it, and I knew like the Last Chance U stuff was a way where I could kind of put them both together to where the mixtape audience would be happy, but I could, also you can be scrolling through YouTube and find this if you was looking for Last Chance U and try to build up like that.
Yeah, and I was just like, I remember thinking like, oh, this is dope. Like nobody's doing like any Last Chance U, and then like, that's the thing. Like when you on YouTube and you searching for videos that you want to do, like if you find something that like I would want to see that video, and the only video is like a dude, talking over like a mic, and then like there's like a picture there, and it sounds really bad, and like, oh, there's a market there that you could probably grab into.
That's
like,
a fact.
Yeah, because it's like, that's what I think really changed things for me is like, when my videos started doing better is when I made content that I wanted to watch. Because I watch like, I watch a lot of the NBA YouTubers, because I think they really got it right. They know how to do this whole thing because there's a ton of them blowing up now. And then like,
for a while.
Yeah. And then I also watch dudes like I'm kind of a nerd, so I watch like Angry Video Game Nerd.
I've watched videos before.
Yeah, and then like I'm a wrestling fan, so I watch Wrestling with Regret. They're all kind of like these retrospectives, with, like these different parts in there. I was like, man, like nobody's doing anything like that for football. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this football is such an underserved market on YouTube. I'm like,
yeah, you're right.
I think I could find a little lane in there, and I think now it's starting to get bigger. and blow up a little bit. And I think that's better for everybody who does NFL content, because if people know that YouTube is a place to go, like people know, like if you watch the NBA, you're like, ooh, I got like 8 different YouTubers I'm about to watch after, Giannis went off for 40. Like, if people know that same thing on Mondays after the NFL game, like, oh, I got like 5 different YouTubers about to pop up a video. That's just going to bring more people, and have their habits go to YouTube, and it's going to make the whole genre really explode to where, the top guys are going to have like 3 million subs or something like that. Because right now, it's not there yet, but it's on its way. Yeah,
I agree. It's definitely growing for sure.
Yeah, and that's why that's why I always tell people, because like sometimes people ask me like, why do I want to do so many collabs, and like, like I do a lot of collabs with even smaller YouTubers than me. It's like, because like the more people who can get out here and make good content, and the more people that can, that can put out good stuff, like it's not really competition as much as it is, like a group thing to me. Because I think people view it in that lens, like, oh, it's got to be competition, like it's television, like we competing for the same audience.
I mean, it all exists. You just got to be smart about like who you collab. As long as you collabing with like the right people that's gonna approach it the right way, then you money. So I might, like you said, I might do some more collabs this year. I found that I don't do a ton of them, just because my video format, it just kind of worked better with, you know what I mean, the way that I would generally do them. But I have done collabs with like all the other major guys at that time. So it's probably like a year and a half ago. So like everybody else that was around like the same size, I generally have collab with all of them. And they'll hit me up. I'll just do something quick for the channel. Yeah.
Thanks.
You guys still, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now.
Sorry,
Welcome
back. Whole bunch of crazy stuff going
down.
So since I'm in Florida, my phone got too hot when I was in the car recording with you guys, so it just shut off on me. Then it cut back on, and then my audio was out. But as I was saying, man, really just started to put out YouTube content just because I was a Bengals fan. There wasn't none on there. Started off with the round table that kind of morphed into my own thing. Started a podcast probably way faster than I should have. But still kind of got a following from that, and just started posting videos, man. And I think one day, I think a dude on Twitter by the name of Bengals Talk had tweeted one of my videos, and I used to always be on Bleacher Report because I love sports, so I love getting my news that way. And the next thing I knew, I saw myself on Bleacher Report, and I was like, how did this even happen? Like, there's some kind of loophole or something like that. So that just led to like a lot of popularity. Like Flemlo has said, you kind of have those mixtape supporters and stuff like that. So they really propelled me to keep going and stuff like that. But I always knew that doing a Bengals channel, it would kind of be a little bit limited just because our fan base isn't as widespread as like a Browns or a Steelers or anything like that. But
like that.
Right, exactly. But that kind of motivated me to keep it going because I just didn't want to give up on Who That Nation, right? Because it's like we really have some real passionate fans. Because to be a Bengals fan and to be a Browns fan for sure, you got to go through a whole lot, bro. That a lot of other teams do not have to
dealing
go
with. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I just wanted, like, because like I always hear people say, like, how are you a Bengals fan? I just wanted a voice for the Bengals fans to really be out there and not have it be something that's biased or from any other standpoint. I just wanted to really just keep it real with people. And so it's just been cool, man, to see it kind of grow. And I think the thing that really blew me up outside of that was I think I issued out a challenge. I think it was like right when YouTube made like some kind of requirement for you to have at least like 1,000 subscribers and a bunch of that. So they took my money away. They took my money away. So I was like, you know what? I went out to all Bengals channels and I was like, look, if I don't get this many subscribers by this time, I'm gonna make this a Steelers channel. And as soon as I did that, the support just came in. But the dope thing about it was people actually started listening to the content and they was like, okay, cool, this is cool. So for me, it kind of started from there, and it's kind of morphed into what it is right now. I'm thinking about venturing off into other lanes, but for right now, like, it's kind of just more of a passion project for me. I still get paid from it and stuff like that. Nowhere on the level of you guys, but for right now, it's just really a passion project and me just being able to kind of talk about something that I really have passion for, which is the Bengals and sports.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important things that like anybody who's going into this, should know is like, I don't know, for me, it was like weird, but it surprised me. And then like, I heard you talk about it, Flem, in the video. And I was like, oh, so this must be normal. But it's like when you first get your views, right, and you get a little audience, it's all love. It's all positivity.
Oh, I know you're going.
It's all like, yo, you should blow up. You should be on ESPN. And then like you break a threshold. Like I broke like 10,000 subs. I got
that's it. That's the hate
6 figures. And then all this stuff, I'm like, yo, there are people who were sub to me just to downvote every video that I had or argue with me. Like, you know, and it's like, I remember like when it first happened, like I didn't know why. Like, is my videos bad? Like, did I sell out? Like did I displease the audience and everything? And because like, you know how YouTube works, like for whatever reason, you'll zoom past 40 positive comments. But that one dude that say something about your hairline or something about like how you're saying different words.
That came through, man.
Yeah, it's like I don't care who you are, you just gonna remember that one comment. Like it's gonna stick with you
until you realize it. Like once you realize it, you can make that conscious decision not to do it. But at first, it's subconscious until you catch yourself. Like, bro, I literally just skipped over 40 good comments and I'm responding to this fucking dude who don't even deserve like my time. I really just need to be talking to them. And if you talk to that dude, though, that's the odd thing about it. He'll come with the craziest comment. If you give him just a comment back, he'll be like, "Oh man, my bad. I really was just trying to get your attention. I'm a huge fan," or some crazy. 99% of the time, where I've gotten like the most hateful, like the just a comment that really pissed me off, and I gotta respond to this. I've gotten like that energy back, like that. Oh, my bad, man. I wasn't trying to be this. Like it's crazy, bro. The internet is just weird.
It's almost like the Isaiah Thomas situation, right? That just happened. Like, oh yeah, I just called you a MF just because I wanted a free Frosty. Like
exactly. And you sitting over here like, bro, you realize like that shit actually upset me. Like I'm an actual human being. But it can get wild. Especially once you get over 10K, it start hitting for sure.
And then I was just like wondering like what's going on. And then like you did the video and then you had literally said like, yo, it's gonna happen like this and that. And I was like, oh, this is how it goes. And it really just was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like I should probably pay attention to different things to see if my channel is really doing what it's supposed to be or not, because it was like, yo, like, what is going on? It went from all love to like it's just like, yo, this man don't know what he's talking about. Then I'm like, dang. And it's the same way that happened on Twitter, everything, man.
Yep.
Especially on Twitter, bro. You got it. Twitter is crazy, man.
Twitter. Yeah. I had a dude that was I think he wrote for, it's actually a Bengals site that offered me a job with them, but I passed on it. And he wrote for them, and like, you know, I don't like to give away my source because my source does business with AJ Green. Like, I don't want AJ Green to fire this man and be like, you told Ace this, Ace put this out. So
I remember this.
There's a lot of stuff that I kind of keep close to the vest, but like my source or whatever dude was basically trying to tell me that I was like lying. And I'm like, nah, like I know this dude. Like this dude basically works for AJ. They have conversations all the time. If you've been listening closely, if you go through my podcast that me and Zim have had, he's actually on the actual podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like, this dude was like, oh, you just lying. You just selling false hope. Like, you starting fake stuff. And I'm like, bro, I have no reason to say this. Like, and it's crazy because, like, a lot of the stuff that I say, it comes true because it is true. And it's like with the Andy Dalton situation. I sat on the information that AJ didn't want Andy Dalton as his quarterback for probably about 3 or 4 weeks before it came out. Like, I've been knew that. Like, I had been on that. So then, like, it happens and everybody's like, oh, well, you know, now that Andy's back, AJ's gonna play. And I'm in my head, I'm like, nah, that's not gonna happen. and so from that perspective, it's just things like that where like dude just really didn't know what he was talking about and just came at me sideways. And it was just like, wow.
It's like I don't know, do you watch Jalen Rose's? He has like a podcast / like show.
Some of it. Yeah.
Jalen is just like, he always has like a source, but he always says like, I'm not about to do a source because they make you have to show your text messages and like I ain't about to do all that. So he's like, he'll always like on the podcast, he'll break news and he'll be like, I'm not breaking news. I'm just saying that this is probably going to happen. And then when it happens 3 months later, he's like, it's broken news. But like, yeah, that just reminded me of that whole situation because Jalen like broke like the whole Mayweather and McConnor thing, the McGregor thing, like 4 months before that happened, like officially.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, Jalen don't know what he's talking about. I was like, his source is Floyd Mayweather. Like I'm pretty sure it's Floyd Mayweather telling him this.
It didn't work out for him with the Kawhi thing.
He went on TV with that.
It looked bad on that one, but like, you can't get them all, man. I'm sure.
Yeah,
in the background.
The only thing I know with the same source, I had a bad experience with Vontaze Burfict, where Vontaze actually showed up in my DM because I shared a picture of his haircut. I didn't know he didn't want anybody to see his haircut. So like I had got the picture from his guy, yeah. So then he jumped in my DMs like, "Yo, where'd you get the picture? How'd you get that? Did he give it to you?" And so like I had posted this, I had actually tweeted it I think a day before, and then the next day, and I think this is when I had like maybe like 10 followers or something on Twitter. I had actually posted it the day before, and then the next day, Paul Dehner Jr. and them on Twitter were trying to get a picture of Vontaze with his haircut or whatever. And I was like, oh, I got it right here. So I just tweeted him. Next thing I know, he retweeted it, man. I had Malcolm Jamal Warner in my mentions and everything. I'm sitting at work. So my phone's in my pocket. I don't know what's going on. Then I get a call, and it's from one of my friends that's a friend of the source. And he like, yeah, did you tweet that picture or something? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, nah, it says wants that down, but don't tell him that it was him that gave it to you. So it caused a whole bunch of issues right there just off of that. So I didn't want to put him in that position again. The only thing, like, it's only been one time with one thing that he told me didn't really shake out. And this kind of came from Carl Lawson. It was about the Jonah injury. The Jonah injury, they had thought, like, Carl Lawson had told him at the time that he was straight. They was just keeping him out. And then, like, the next day, it was like he was on IR. So I don't know what happened with that. I don't know if they didn't tell Carl Lawson the right story or what happened. But, yeah, that's generally how it goes, man.
Yeah, and that's hilarious because if Vontaze Burfict hit my DMs like, yo, delete that. Oh, it's deleted. It's deleted, Vontaze. I'm sorry, Vontaze. Don't mind me. Nah, it's gone. But it's weird though, like doing this because you kind of bump with like your local media guys, like with what we do, and it's like sometimes them dudes like I really don't be trying to beef with nobody. Like I really don't be trying to, but like you'll just get tweets and like subtweets directed at you. And you're like, yo, they really being petty like this? Like they work for a big company. They got a job where their income is steady. Like I couldn't imagine like just out here just like beefing with somebody that, you know, trying to like disparage their name over something silly, you know, because it's like, I don't know. I just don't see it the same way some people do. But, you know, I've
gotten a mixed bag on that. I've gotten love from some people. Chris Rowland of Sports Illustrated, he's giving me some love. I know my partner, Zim, he had a rocky relationship with Paul Dehner, but I think that they squashed that in London during the UK game because they actually seen each other in person. So Zim is a cool dude, but sometimes he might rub people the wrong way sometimes. But when they actually meet and sit and talk to him, it's kind of a different energy. So I definitely feel what you talk about from that standpoint because you get Twitter energy and then you get I'm meeting you in real life and this is. We cool.
That'd be the funny thing about it. Like I got a lot of love running. I used to tell people that all the time. I'm like, bro, if you run into me in real life, dog, like I'm not how you think I am. You know, you're not gonna run up on me with that Twitter energy in real life. You know, I'm way bigger than you think I am. It's just it's gonna be different. You know, but I think y'all probably get that more than me from like the media people. Like I never had any issues, I don't think, from like a media guy, other than them maybe like trying to copyright claim a video or something like that, because maybe I used a picture or a clip from an interview they did or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I've had the herd don't like me. That's why I stopped making the college because I was like, yo, every time I post one, for the first time I got an audio copyright claim on a video clip, and I was like, they are hunting.
Oh, XOS Sports tried to own my channel at one point. They get everything. Like,
my God.
3-second clip. If it's college football, you hit. You better get you a picture or like go to like an Instagram clip of like dude working out like on his own.
On his own, right?
That's what you got to get, because if not, they coming for everything. They not playing.
And
I'm about to just record dudes playing flag football, just run at his B-roll. Just be like,
that's why I had to change up my format, because man, they was coming at me like all of my videos where I was getting a whole bunch of views. They were striking all of them.
That's the ones they hate the most. Like that video start performing, they be like, "What is this?" Right. And YouTube make it easy for them to track it too. Like if you go into your studio, if somebody use a clip from your video, you can see it. So at that point, you can decide whether how you want to handle it, and they usually decide to take the money. That's usually
like my biggest video made like $100 because it got demonetized like immediately. I was like, oh, and I was like, I got it because it was the Kellen Winslow video. So I was like, okay, that has like a lot of stuff in there.
My Kellen Winslow video got demonetized also.
Yeah, I was like,
not immediately. Like on day 2, it got hit. So it still made a little bit, but it definitely got hit.
My thing got to like 8,000 views. I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's a nice little video, for my channel. And then like it just started exploding. So I started getting excited. I'm looking at my phone. They're like, what? Oh, it's yellow. Damn, I ain't making no money on this.
Without the video turning yellow. Like you bring up Kellen Winslow, you demonetized.
Yeah. I brought up OBJ once, just yelling at somebody. That whole video got demonetized. Like, what do they want me to talk about on this thing? But that's definitely some good stuff out there for some younger YouTubers. I think honestly, my biggest key would be make videos you want, make videos you want to see. And honestly, like the biggest thing that I felt like held me back was I always was like, oh no, I want to make like this perfect video, this Martin Scorsese type freaking YouTube video. And it's like sometimes you just got to be like, let me put the video out, let me finish it. Let me make sure it's watchable. Let me make sure it's not like a mess, and then just let the people decide if it's good or not.
Because I promise you, dog, the video that you think gonna go ain't gonna go. Video that you think is kind of trash, but you need to get it out. It's gonna go.
It's gonna go.
Like, most of my biggest videos are like vids that I was not happy with when I posted them, but I was like, a lot of the amount of time that I'm gonna allow on this video, I'm moving to the next. I'm gonna post this and just let it, do whatever it does. Those almost always do the best. It's weird as hell, but that's how I go.
It's like every time I'm like, I'm about to put 30 hours into this video. It's gonna be the dopest video. Put it out there. Boom.
Copyright strike or low views.
Like it only did 2,000 in the first day. Okay, well, guess they don't want that.
Man.
All right, so let's go on to our next segment here, and we're going to talk about some positive stuff, the future of the AFC North, because I think it's going to be one hell of a division coming up because of the quarterbacks that are going to be in there. I think Baker Mayfield is going to take a step forward after taking a slight step back, and I think if he gets the right coach around him, he's going to be able to do some pretty good things. I don't think Lamar Jackson going away anytime soon. That's going to be a 7-8 year problem in Baltimore. Joe Burrow, I feel like I've watched a lot of Joe Burrow this season, but man, what he did against Oklahoma, that was just some special stuff. He threw a lot of special balls on the run, just like the touch. Like you could tell when it came off his hand, you're like, oh, that's a good ball. Like, right. Like it's been some really good stuff down there. And then you look at Pittsburgh. And they got a duck, and they got Mason Rudolph. So Pittsburgh, and if you're a Pittsburgh fan watching this, I say this with a little bit of joy. Looks like Pittsburgh's headed straight to quarterback hell, a place where as Bengals fans and as Browns fans, we know exactly one, what it takes to get in QB hell, and two, how hard it is to get out.
Especially when you're good all the time, like the Steelers are.
Yeah, like their defense is too good to sting. They're not about to get Trevor Lawrence. They're gonna be stuck with like Duck or like Teddy Bridgewater. And I think Teddy's decent, but it's like
man, what if they like slide in and draft like Hurts late, like in the second or third round? I'll be pissed too, because that'll be if he goes that organization. All you really got to do is kind of manage things. That'll be a great fit for him.
Yeah, that'll be.
As a fan of him, I hope he don't go there.
Yeah. I don't want Jalen Hurts to go to. I want him to go somewhere better than Pittsburgh. And it's like I don't want to hate the dude. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure I hate the dude if he's in Pittsburgh.
Anybody there?
I don't think they're gonna get stuck in QB hell though, just because I feel like they don't really need the number one quarterback, or you know what I mean. Like with us, like Bengals and with Cleveland, a lot of these times when we was in QB hell, there was a lot of other things going on in the organization that was not right. So you had to have we had to hit like a home run and get the first pick in order to have a quarterback to come in and be able to execute on a consistent basis. I don't really feel like that's the case with the Steelers. I feel like they can get a quarterback a little bit later, and he can come in and pick up. He ain't gonna beat Roethlisberger, but he'll pick up and be a solid quarterback to where the Steelers are gonna always be a problem, bro. Now with Lamar, I do wonder because I saw RG3 win Rookie of the Year. I saw Cam in his MVP season and his MVP form. And then, with both of those guys, injuries really started to kind of take over. Now, Lamar does not have a history of that. And by God, I am not wishing that on him at all. All I'm saying is I'm not 100% sure that he's going to be able to keep up even like 80% of what he's doing right now. That's going to be the question for Baltimore. But their organization is so goddamn strong. Lamar is so goddamn dynamic right now that they're going to always be a problem. With Cleveland, y'all got so much talent. You really just need to bring in like those few leadership pieces, I feel, get the coach right. And like you were saying earlier, some veteran players to come in with that core and help to lead the team. So yeah, man, it's gonna be very interesting going forward. I think the division will continue to be strong. I think there will likely be a team that's left out, and I'm just really hoping that ain't us. Like we're positioned to make a big turnaround going forward with Joe Burrow, but it's hard for me to see because has there ever been a time where all four teams were just strong? I feel like it's always been at least one team that was kind of like, you know what I'm saying, like not really in there.
Yeah, like for most part, like the early 2000s, the Browns and the Bengals were down up until Carson Palmer got to the Bengals, I think in 05? Was that 04 or
04?
04.
He was drafted in 03, but he didn't start until 04.
Yeah, so 04 up until about 2010, I think up until about 2016, that y'all were playing solid, the third or second team in the division. And then the Browns had the 1 year they went to the playoffs in 02, but the Browns for the last 20 years, the Browns have been the bottom of the division. And then even if we go back to like the 90s when the Browns were like, all right, they had Bill Belichick, but they still weren't great. I think Pittsburgh wasn't good in that time frame. I think and there was no Baltimore, of course. So like in the modern era of this division, yeah, it's never been looking like it's going to look now to where there is no easy win in this division regardless. Like I don't think any team is going to be easy. With the Steelers, I do worry about their ability to compete in this division without a quarterback because it does look like it's going to be a strong division. I think the Bengals are going to be a much better team next year with their tackle, Jonah Williams healthy, with Joe Burrow, with AJ Green out there with Joe Burrow. It's just going to be a completely different offense. And I think Zac Taylor is going to have some interesting things in plan. And then if you look at what's going on in Cleveland, if they can get the coach right, that's going to change a lot of things. And then Baltimore, I think Lamar is probably going to develop even more as a passer and start using his wide receivers more, which is going to be very dangerous. So this division is going to be one of those interesting ones to watch. I think every year there's probably going to be a good team in this division left behind in the playoff race just because you can't get them all in. Right. But it's going to be – I think it's going to be a consistent – you probably got to win 12, 13 games to win the AFC North. That is a hell of a mountain to climb. It's not with the NFC South this year with the Cowboys and the Eagles. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be that anytime soon. I think this might be one of the toughest divisions in this next decade to win.
I hope the division can get back there for sure.
Because it's normally been that for sure. Right. It's at least been a tough hitting division. Like even when the Browns were like before the Hugh Jackson era, where they went like 1-30, Like the Browns are never like an easy loss or easy win. Like they would be a win. Yeah. But like, you know, they would compete, especially like against like the Bengals, sometimes with the Ravens, never with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like for whatever reason, we can never compete. But you know, it's just been kind of that kind of grind, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what this next decade has in store with the young quarterbacks that are in this division. Looks like we're going to have, I think, 3 of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, probably in the same division, fighting for the same spot. It's going to be
dope, man. If you come out of the division, then you'll be ready. You know what I mean? You'll be ready for the rest of the league once you hit the playoffs.
It's almost scary because it's like you come out of this division, you might be too beat up to win anything outside of that too.
That is a possibility as well. Like, but I'd rather be battle tested, man. I'd rather be battle tested than just kind of skate through and then get to the playoffs and lose in the first round, like, you know, we've done in the past. So.
Since like the 80s. Oh man. I used to always tease Bengals fans because they you know how Bengals fans do at least we ain't the Browns.
Dude, I ain't gonna lie, I hate that saying. But yeah, a lot of Bengals fans, they lean on that.
You're like, well, at least we ain't the Browns. Like, you do realize the Browns won a playoff game more recently.
That's why they're so scared to get rid of Martin, and they're scared to get rid of Andy because they're so terrified to like be the Browns or what the Browns were that they don't want to take any chances to actually try to be what the Ravens are or what the Steelers are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, and I would say like to those fans, man, sometimes I think because like as a Browns fan, we've waited in mediocrity for so long, like 4-12, 5-11. The worst thing to be is 4-12, 5-11, 6-10, because you can't really, you know, like it's not really a lot of changes you can make that are gonna like be difference makers. Yeah. So it's like it sucks being there. And for the longest time, I was like, man, I can't wait for the Browns to just suck for real, like just be bad. So when they went 1-15, I was like, cool with it.
For real.
So it was Myles Garrett that year, even though Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were both in that draft. But nobody
for them too.
Yeah, but I always thought that Deshaun Watson should have went number 1 in that draft. But you know, they went with Myles. And then the next year, Trubisky went 2. Man. That's one of the hardest ones to explain.
They boosted him up so hard, like within that last month before the draft. Like he just started climbing. I was like,
that was crazy.
Trash. Like, he was trash in college, and he wasn't a good leader. I was like, what are his traits? I was like, this dude's gonna be a bad NFL starter.
Here's how much I wanted to avoid Trubisky. First of all, Trubisky's from Cleveland, played at Mentor High School, used to be in the same division as the high school I went to. I think I've actually seen Mitchell Trubisky like play high school football before. And I remember thinking like when they brought him up, they're like, oh, he's a local kid, the Browns kid. I was like, hell no, don't ever, nah, stay away from that. But I wanted Deshaun Watson that year, but you know, yeah, but also, I didn't want Patrick Mahomes, which ended up being
me neither.
I remember thinking
they didn't see that. I don't care what they say.
I thought he was Brandon Wheaton. I thought he was going to be
just like every other Texas Tech quarterback. I'm like, they all put up crazy numbers, man. What are you talking about? It's like this ain't none of that stuff gonna work in the league.
Right.
Wrong. He gets to the league and he just shuts it down.
It's all gonna work.
Yeah. But Deshaun Watson going 12th in that draft, and then the Browns, what they had to they traded their pick actually to the Texans for like Jabril Peppers. It ended up being who they traded for Odell Beckham. So I guess it worked out. But I just remember being hot. I was like, you could have. I was hot about that. I was mad. That was one of the. But like, you know, to fans are like, oh, we don't want to be that bad. You got to be that bad. And sometimes you said things like to me, it's like you sometimes because like I've watched years where like, oh, we didn't get Andrew Luck because we wanted to go 4-12. Or, you know, and we ended up with Trent Richardson, which, you know, like Trent Richardson's career ended up being what it was.
We were kids at 8-8. Like when I said we was gonna go 8-8 before the season, I wasn't saying it like, hey, we're gonna go 8-8. I was saying like we're gonna fucking go 8-8. We're gonna get a garbage draft pick. Like this is what we do. Like we just good enough
what we do, baby.
To not make the playoffs or to lose in the first round and then get a poor draft pick. So
we would just not be bad enough to get a better draft.
You know what I'm saying? Other than like a Super Bowl. Like this is as good as the season could go if you ain't about to make a late push to the Super Bowl.
It was like, you know how many years I've had to watch the Browns like get the 6th pick in the draft some big dude from some SEC school, and nothing changes. Just absolutely, like, you're just like, oh, okay. Well, what we gonna do? We got Phil Taylor now, okay? Like nothing ever changes. And I was just like hoping, like, yo, 1 year they gonna just stink for real, just like stink. And then they stunk for like 2 years, and I was cool with it. I was cool with it. And they got Baker. I believe that Baker's gonna be something. I don't know how great he's gonna be. I do worry about him in the clutch because even going back to Oklahoma, dude really ain't ever been that guy in the clutch. Like if you look at the Georgia game, they really didn't go with him a lot in that game. And then just look at he's had bad experiences here in the NFL just in those moments. I mean, it goes back to 2018, even when he was playing well with the interception at the end of the Ravens game to C.J. Mosley. He did have the one play against the Bills, but he's thrown like a bunch of fourth quarter interceptions. I do worry about that with him. He does have some of that like Peyton Manning in him where you're like, man, this dude gonna throw a pick at the wrong time. Like he gonna kill it, but he gonna throw a pick at the wrong damn time, and he's gonna drive us crazy. But I think it's gonna be a nice little 10-year journey with this division because I think 3 teams got quarterbacks for the next 10 years. And shout out to Pittsburgh, they got a duck. So good luck with that, Pittsburgh. I hope the worst for you. I really don't like Pittsburgh. But hey, so you got any thoughts about this division for the next decade? What do you think it's gonna look like?
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, cool. I think it's unfortunately the nightmare of what I thought was going to be the Lamar Jackson pick is coming to fruition. And I say that because I wanted the Bengals to take him. Not only did we miss out on him, he went to the Baltimore Ravens. And I think even though he's having this MVP season, the scary part is that he's really just scratching the surface. I don't think that we've seen his final form since Flemlo has the Dragon Ball T-shirt on. I don't think we've seen Lamar Jackson's final form. I was
Super Saiyan.
2 things that worried me, man. I wish I had the actual conversation, but after that draft where Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield were both drafted, I told my fellow Bengals fans, I was like, it's a wrap for us because number one, these are 2 young quarterbacks that are going to take over this division, and we still at the time had Andy Dalton, so I'm like, we're behind in terms of this arms race. Yeah. We've got this little pistol, and these guys are pulling ARs off the shelf. Like we need to get right. But I think Baker will definitely get his act together. I think Lamar will. I think, like Flem said, this has never been a division where all 4 teams have been on the same page. I thought that was going to be this season. Obviously, it wasn't. But I think that the future is bright from the quarterback standpoint for the whole division. I still want to see what Joe Burrow can do. Joe Burrow is our only hope right now, to be honest with you, just because if he doesn't do what's needed to kind of overtake this Ravens thing and this Browns thing that you guys have over there that will be in year 2 next season, it's going to be tough. And Pittsburgh, as much as I hate them, I have to give them credit for what they're doing on defense. It seems like they're kind of morphing back into the Pittsburgh of old, where they kind of concentrated on building that defense back up. So I think in terms of the future, if Joe Burrow can do his thing, if we can pull things together, I think this entire division will be good, but it's going to be hard to tell who's going to be on the outside looking in. And I think our bets really hinge on Joe Burrow, especially after looking at those 2020 opponents for next season. We're going to have him for this next decade to continue to try to throw our hat in the race for this division.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for the next decade. Got a few questions here we just want to get off before we end the stream today. I got a question from my guy Luke, who says, with a young quarterback, would you want to target exclusively an offensive head coach, or do you want to go with somebody who's a strong leader in a defensive head coach? What are your opinions about that, us being in like situations with young quarterbacks? What would you prefer from that standpoint?
I think it's ideal to have a quarterback whisperer almost, you know what I mean? So I think pairing him with a young offensive-minded coach is the ideal situation that you want to be in. I think back to like Mark Sanchez or somebody like that, young quarterback, decent defensive coach, and they usually struggle to develop over time. And we might even seen a little bit of that with Baker this year as well.
I have to agree. I think that you go and get the quarterback whisperer because I think when you have that defensive guy, heading up your head coaching position as we had with Marvin Lewis, they kind of tend to settle for those game managing type quarterbacks like the Andy Daltons of the world. And they think that as long as, they have a great defense and a serviceable quarterback that just won't throw turnovers, they think that they can win. And with the NFL being an offensive league, it's a quarterback league now. I think you're better suited getting someone who can kind of grow with that quarterback. And I think that the best way to do that is to get them with an offensive-minded coach. I mean, you look at Kyle Shanahan, what he has done with Matt Ryan when he was there, got the Falcons to the Super Bowl, left them, they kind of fell off a little bit. You look at even in our situation, I know you guys don't have the best view of Hugh Jackson, but what Hugh Jackson did for Andy Dalton, no other kind of coach has really been able to duplicate that. And I think when you have that young quarterback whisperer, they can kind of bring those things out of that quarterback to get them to step up in a moment. I don't think it's a coincidence that Pat Mahomes is having as much success as he is having because he has Andy Reid as a play caller who's able to utilize his strengths to a T because he knows offense. You don't want to have a defensive guy in charge of your offense.
Yeah, see, I kind of think I'm going to go a different way with this just because, we're coming off of two offensive guys in Cleveland, Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens. And I think like a lot is made of making sure you get that offensive guy and, you want to get the offensive guru and all that. But sometimes that can work against an offense because like I noticed this with Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson is not going to adjust the system for anybody. He's not going to try to make it work for a different quarterback. He's going to run the same system he wants to run with Carson Palmer with, Baker Mayfield. And sometimes that doesn't fit. And then the same thing with Freddie Kitchens. He came in here and ran the offense that was designed for like a dude like Carson Palmer. Like the Browns really should have just tried to get Carson Palmer out of retirement because like that's who all their offenses fit. The big, tall dude who can stand in the pocket for a while and launch the ball downfield and throw some 50-50 balls. But that's not Baker Mayfield's play style. He's a gunslinger. He likes to go downfield, but he does it much better off play action, and off of shorter drops. But, sometimes you get with these offensive gurus and they either try to do too much or they just like with the Browns, like the biggest thing that drove me crazy, and you touched on it earlier, Ace, is like when you watch the Browns play, sometimes you just think that they're doing way too much. They're being overcomplicated for no reason. You have Kareem Hunt, you have Nick Chubb. You don't need to design trick plays to run the ball. Just run the ball. You got the two best running backs you got two of the better running backs in the NFL. The stuff with the goal line drove me crazy because no matter what they would do, right, at the goal line, they would try to do all these trick plays, like just run a play action and throw the ball up to Odell. That's all you have to do. Like, it's sometimes with Freddie Kitchens, what he would do is he would overcomplicate things. And he would make things much, much harder than they had to be and try to design things and try to show his genius. And sometimes you don't need to be a genius to get things right. And, like with an offensive head coach, sometimes that gets in the way. Sometimes they have an ego about the offense that prevents them from wanting to have changes in there. And I think, with the defensive head coach, I think it can work out a lot of the times because you can hire an offensive coordinator to focus on that a lot more than the coach can. When it's the offensive head coach and you have the offensive coordinator underneath him, it's kind of a weird situation where who's in charge, who's really making the decisions. But when you have a defensive head coach and, he has his offensive coordinator, it's really more of a collaboration between, of probably a veteran quarterback and that offensive coordinator. So it's an offense that fits better and can adjust more. Sometimes with the geniuses and the gurus, I worry about them just how much belief do they have in the system and how stubborn they are about it. Now with Zac Taylor, it don't look like he's stubborn. So I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. And he doesn't have the resume to be that stubborn. But I know you guys know a lot about Hugh Jackson because he has that extensive history in Cincinnati. But I think the number one thing that killed Hugh Jackson was just the stubbornness to run that system regardless of his personnel. He had RG3 out here doing 40 dropbacks. It was not a good idea. This was I remember watching this and being like, why does he do this? and he tried to force this offense. He had Cody Kessler throwing the ball 50 times in a game, you know, and it's like sometimes, you know, they think that their offense is going to fix everything, and it's like just simplify it sometimes. So, you know, I'm kind of cautious on the offensive genius. I don't think you need an offensive genius. I think sometimes you just need somebody who understands, especially in the Browns case, though, that you got the personnel there. When you got Odell Beckham, when you got Jarvis Landry, when you have, you know, the talent you have on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think you need to get complicated. You know, like how complicated was it to get the ball to AJ Green for the Bengals, you know, during your best offensive years? It was pretty much Andy Dalton going to throw that thing to AJ Green 14 times a game.
I feel like a good offensive coach, though, like an actual good offensive coach kind of comes in with that mentality. Like the guru guys who's just trying to prove that they're the dude. I don't think they're good offensive coaches. You know what I'm saying? I think a good offensive coach comes in and actually looks at his personnel and actually builds everything around that. But I mean, you made some good points with it. It kind of depends on, I guess, who, like the rest of the coaching staff. So if you're gonna bring in a defensive dude to be your head coach, just make sure you're getting the right people that's actually gonna run your offense, or actually gonna call your plays.
Yeah, but
or
definitely
you could go with the wild card and you could hire the special teams head coach. You could do that, somebody from the special teams background. Because one thing that I noticed that a lot of players on the Bengals said with moving from Marvin to Zac was that the offensive guys felt like Marvin didn't like when the offense would show up their defense, and he would tell them to kind of take it easy on the defense, which is mind-boggling why you would say that. Stupid. But you kind of get those favoritisms from the offensive side and the defensive side. So maybe you go to Patriot way and you go and get a guy like Belichick with a special teams background. That way you can kind of compensate on both sides.
All right, though, with that being said, that's going to be it for this amazing collab. I want to thank everybody to come on. Flem, let them know where they can find you, where they can catch you at.
You can find me, Flemlo Raps, on YouTube, Flemlo Raps on Twitter, or Flemlo Raps on IG, or anywhere else.
Absolutely. And then Ace, let them know where they can find you at. Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm glad we got to do this. New Stripe City on YouTube, at New Stripe City on Twitter, at New Stripe City on IG.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on. It's been fun chat, interesting things that we learned about, you know, YouTube, the NFL, and just everything in between. Look forward to seeing you guys continue to grow and continue to do great things. Ace, Flem, thank you for coming on. Everybody have a great day.